One particular point in the Bhagavad Gita that may be difficult to understand, especially for first-time readers, is why did Krishna encourage Arjuna to fight in the Kurukshetra war instead of allowing Arjuna to abandon the battle and go to live a peaceful life as he proposed in the beginning of the text? We like to see ourselves as peace-loving individuals. Make love, not war, was the slogan in the 60s and 70s, and it resonated in the collective imagination, especially after the horrors of the Second World War. To see a book where one is encouraged to fight in a war may sound shocking to many. One important point to consider when we study the Bhagavad Gita is that this is a book that was spoken to all people living at all times. There are different societies with different ideas, habits, and traditions, and such ideas change over time. The Bhagavad Gita doesn't speak about mundane moral values, but about spiritual values that are atemporal and are thus as relevant today as they were 5,000 years ago. A second important point is that the Bhagavad Gita offers progressive levels of understanding. There are different persons in the world with different states of consciousness and living in different conditions, and the Bhagavad Gita offers practical solutions for all. As one graduates in one level of understanding, he immediately has access to the next level. As one comprehension deepens, the same verse reveals new meanings, a progression that can go pretty far, and everything from the same book. That's actually one of the main proofs of the divinity of the book. Such a set of instructions could not have been written by a human being. But why did Krishna encourage Arjuna to fight? The first consideration is that Duryodhana was a despot who obtained power by spurious means. We can see through history examples of dictators like Hitler, Stalin, and Mussolini, and the harm they inflicted to the world. To remove such corrupted rulers from power is not usually considered an unjust cause, even in modern society. Many people fought against the Axis in World War II, and their involvement in the battle is usually not seen as something bad, quite the opposite. A deeper argument is that Arjuna was a trained kshatriya, a military man, and thus he had the duty of fighting for the right cause. If he would leave the battlefield, this would not only be immoral in his part, but also destroy his honor and reputation, forcing him to live in the rest of his life in shame. For an honored person like Arjuna, dishonor is worse than that. Another argument, yet deeper, is that everyone is actually not a body but an immortal soul that can't be harmed by any type of weapon. In a war, weapons like swords, spears, bombs, and bullets may be used, but none of such weapons can harm the soul. As one continuously passes from boyhood to adulthood and old age, similarly, a soul transmigrates to another body at the time of death, just like one may exchange his clothes. One that is actually wise is not confused by such a change. As a soul, one can't kill anyone or can be killed by anyone. Therefore, Arjuna could abandon his fear and apprehensiveness and execute his duty as a kshatriya, fighting for the right cause without hesitation. This point is explained in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. O Partha, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn, and immutable kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? As a person puts new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. The soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. This individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble, and can be neither burned nor dried. He is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. It is said that the soul is indivisible, inconceivable, and immutable. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. This argument is compounded by the understanding of the law of karma. Just as one is subjected to karmic reactions when he harms another, one is implicated if someone is hurt because of his negligence. If a doctor fails to treat a patient due to negligence and the patient dies, the doctor will surely be punishable for this. Similarly, being one of the great heroes of the Mahabharata, Arjuna had the power to fight and influence the course of the battle. If he would desert, he would be karmically responsible for neglecting his duty and allowing Duryodhana to continue his atrocities. To tranquilize Arjuna, Krishna explains the path of Karma Yoga. Detached work, when one offers his effort and the results as an offering to the Supreme. When one works under these instructions, executing his duties with the proper mentality, not only he doesn't accumulate any new karma as a result of his actions, but he actually destroys his past karma and walks towards ultimate liberation. Although based in action, the path of Karma Yoga is a very effective path, especially for one that is starting the path of self-realization, and is thus the path recommended for us. The example of Arjuna is very significant, since if even a warrior fighting a war could practice a process of self-realization and advance in the spiritual path, surely it would be even more accessible for someone that is just living a normal life, working and taking care of his family. This is the context of the famous verse 38 of the second chapter. Duto fights for the sake of fighting without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat, and by so doing you shall never incur sin. We tend to want to abandon everything when there are difficulties, just like Arjuna wanted to abandon the battlefield in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, but this is rarely a good proposition. If one tries to renounce his duties and material activities before time, when he is still attached to this material world, he will surely fall down later and the results will be adverse. We can practically see many wannabe transcendentalists that abandon their families and try to renounce the world, becoming gurus and yogis, just to fall down later, many times in scandalous ways. It's much better thus to remain with his family and continue executing his duties, but with the proper consciousness. Thus, when Krishna speaks to Arjuna, he is actually speaking to each one of us. When one graduates in the path of Karma Yoga, one can start the path of Astanga Yoga, controlling his mind and senses and practicing solitary meditation. However, this process is extremely difficult and is thus flatly rejected by Arjuna, who argues that it would be easier for him to try to stop the wind. Krishna thus enters into the final level of his instructions, explaining about the path of Bhakti Yoga, or devotional service. Each and every soul has an eternal relationship with Krishna, the Supreme Person. Due to our absorption in this material universe, this relationship is temporarily forgotten, and thus we go through the struggles of life. Although this temporary material world offers us a great set of challenges and difficulties, it also offers us a valuable chance of reviving this long-forgotten relationship, and thus reattain our original eternal position in the spiritual sphere. It's mentioned that in his original state, the soul is described as Satchitananda, eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. The path of Bhakti Yoga allows us to reattain this original position, leaving behind the temporary happiness and sorrow of this material world. Actually, the battle is just a background to this ultimate message. As Krishna states in the 9th chapter, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. In this way, you will be freed from bondage to work and its auspicious and inauspicious results. With your mind fixed on me in this principle of renunciation, you will be liberated and come to me. Each one of us has a specific mission in this world. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada explains that each one of us has a special talent that is given to him by Krishna. To use this special talent for Krishna is the perfection of life. When one is capable of utilizing his special talent in the appropriate ways, with proper consciousness and under qualified guidance, he becomes capable of doing great good for others and for himself. However, for this one needs a great deal of spiritual knowledge and wisdom. That's exactly what the Bhagavad Gita has to offer.